The sun was setting over Conway, Arkansas, casting a soft orange glow across the modest row houses lining East Porter Avenue. It was supposed to be a peaceful evening, just another quiet southern Sunday winding down. But in one of those homes, inside a cozy living room decorated with autumn-scented candles and throw pillows that read faith, family, freedom, a woman was typing something that would seal her fate. Brianna Cole, 42 years old, newly married and recently bruised, physically and emotionally, sat cross-legged on the couch of her best friend, Jennifer Mathis. Her curly hair was tied in a loose bun, her smile tight but defiant. She stared at her phone screen like she was about to jump off a cliff. Jennifer, folding laundry in the next room, peeked in with a sigh. "You're still posting, huh?" Brianna didn't look up. Her thumb hovered over the share button on Facebook. "I am," she said plainly. The caption on her post read, "I'm single again, nail polish, #freedom feels good, #new me." And it was paired with a photo of her flashing a half smile in a cozy sweatshirt, no wedding ring in sight. Jennifer blinked hard, dropping a towel. "Bri, y'all just got married yesterday. I know exactly what I'm doing." "No, baby. You know what you're feeling. But you're pouring gas on a fire and lighting the match." Brianna finally looked up. "You think I don't know what he is, Jen? I know exactly what he is. But you're still wearing his last name." Brianna stood, her voice rising ever so slightly. "Because I let people push me back into that church when I knew better. I saw the bruises before the wedding. I wore concealer on my collarbone. I stood up there and said, I do, with shaking knees." Jennifer's eyes softened. "Then just leave, Bri. Quietly. Don't make noise." But Brianna chuckled bitterly. "That's the problem, Jen. Quiet women get buried." Ding. The phone buzzed. Her post had gone live. Within seconds, likes, shocked emojis, heart reacts, and comments began to flood in. Monique W. "Girl, you serious?" Calvin J. "What the hell? Didn't y'all just tie the knot?" Aunt Lorraine. "Call me. Now." Then came a message from Derek. "Derek Cole, husband. What the hell is this? You think this funny? Delete it. Right now. I'm on my way." Brianna's fingers shook, but she didn't reply. She turned the phone screen down on the coffee table. Jennifer noticed the color drain from her friend's face. "You all right?" He saw it. Jennifer exhaled sharply, her hands resting on her hips. "You need to call the cops, Bri." "No, not yet. He hasn't done anything. Not today. Not yet." Jennifer stared. "Bri, this man choked you because dinner was late. He threw your phone off the porch because your ex liked a picture. Now you publicly humiliated him." "I didn't humiliate him," Brianna muttered. "I liberated me." Jennifer walked toward the front window, peeking through the blinds. That's when she saw it. A black pickup truck parked across the street. Engine off. No movement. She stepped back, heart pounding. "That's Derek's truck." Brianna didn't flinch. "Let him watch. I'm done hiding." But there was something in her voice. Not fear. Not defiance. Something in between. A knowing. Then came the knock. Not the polite tap of a neighbor. Not the friendly knock of a husband coming home. It was 3 sharp, deliberate bangs. Jennifer grabbed her phone. "I'm calling the cops." "No," Brianna touched her arm gently. "He's not going to do anything. He's all bark." The door didn't open. The knocks didn't come again. But the silence that followed was heavier than anything Jennifer had ever felt. Like the stillness before a storm breaks. Inside that little living room, 2 women sat in a bubble of false calm, trying to make sense of what they'd just triggered. On Facebook, the post now had over 300 shares. In the comments, "Cousin Tyrone, y'all playing too much." Sherry F. "I knew something was off about that man." Unknown user, "She won't be single long." Outside, the last sliver of sunlight dipped below the tree line. Inside, Brianna glanced at the door. "She won't be single long." The words echoed in her head, like a bad omen spoken out loud. But it was already too late. The wedding had looked perfect, at least on the outside. White roses, silver accents, a soft gospel quartet humming, "The Lord bless you and keep you," as guests dabbed their eyes with tissues. Brianna's lace gown shimmered in the sunlight, hugging her curves like it had been stitched by angels. Derek stood tall at the altar, a crisp black tux hugging his broad frame, his medals from military service tucked away but still shining behind his proud smile. People whispered, "Finally, God brought them together. She deserves a good man." But underneath Brianna's highlighter and radiant smile was a bruise just barely hidden beneath her collarbone. Her makeup artist, her cousin Deidre, had paused mid-brush, staring too long. "You sure about this?" she had whispered. And Brianna, not blinking, replied, "No, but everyone else is." She had called off the wedding once before. 3 weeks prior, after Derek slammed a cabinet door inches from her face during an argument about her staying late at work, Brianna packed a small overnight bag and stayed with Jennifer. That night, she had written a list on a napkin. "He yells too much. He checks my phone. He doesn't apologize, only explains. He loves who he wants me to be, not who I am." But the next morning, her phone lit up with texts from her mother, her aunties, and even her pastor. "Pastor Murray, every man has a temper. A wife tames it. He's a God-fearing man, Brianna. Give him grace. Don't throw away your chance at forever." And so, she returned. Quietly, head down. Derek had met her at the front door like nothing happened, pulling her into a long embrace. "See? I knew you'd come back. You're my wife, Bri. You belong here." The problem was, deep down, Brianna knew she didn't belong to anyone. At church, he shook hands like a deacon, helped elderly women with groceries, even led prayer once when Pastor Murray was out sick. His laugh was warm, his smile rehearsed, and when he introduced Brianna to the congregation, he called her "my blessing from God." But behind closed doors, he treated kindness like weakness, and her voice like noise. What the town saw was a man redeemed. What Brianna lived with was something else entirely. Still, she convinced herself this was just part of marriage. Every woman she knew had been told to compromise. Her own mother had once said, "If you're not crying sometimes, you ain't in it for real." So she cried, often, in the shower, in the car, behind locked bathroom doors while Derek sat outside, silent and stone-faced. The week before the wedding, Brianna stood in her small nail salon, the scent of acetone and lavender oil in the air, watching a bride-to-be giggle about her bachelorette party. She smiled politely, filed nails, and asked questions like she was interested. But in the pit of her stomach, something tightened. She wasn't scared of getting married. She was terrified of being trapped. Derek had already made her shut down the salon for their future. "Start fresh with me," he said. "You don't need to be surrounded by women yapping all day." And she, stupidly, believed that maybe letting go of her independence meant receiving love in return. Maybe, just maybe, if she leaned in, he'd soften. He didn't. The night before the wedding, she found him pacing outside their apartment, phone in hand, jaw clenched. She had texted a male friend from high school, just a thanks for the congrats. Derek didn't speak. He just held out her phone. "It's handled now," he said. She didn't know what that meant. She didn't ask. The next morning, her mother straightened her veil. "Today, you become a wife. That means new strength, new sacrifice." She wanted to scream. She wanted to run. But she walked down the aisle instead, with her father's voice echoing in her head, though he'd been gone 5 years. "Pick someone who protects you, not just someone who promises to." It wasn't until after the reception, when they were alone in their hotel suite, that she saw the real Derek. He didn't drink, didn't party, didn't touch her. Instead, he stared at her in silence for over an hour. No TV, no music, no honeymoon laughter, just cold eyes. "You embarrassed me," he finally said. She turned to him. "By dancing with my cousins? You think I didn't see you smile at Marcus? He's my cousin, Derek." He leaned in close, not shouting, not hitting, just whispering so low it felt more dangerous than yelling. You smile at men when I'm not around, Bree. But I'm always watching. That night, she slept with one eye open. The next day, she texted Jennifer. I need out. I made a mistake. Can I stay with you? Jennifer's reply came instantly. I never took your key back. Before she walked out of that house, her phone had rung. It was her mother. The voice on the other end was soft, layered with worry and tradition. Baby, just wait a little longer, her mother said. You're his wife now. Marriage ain't built in a day. Sometimes God tests us through the ones we love. He's a good man, Brianna. A praying man. You don't fix a house by running away from it. Brianna pressed her forehead to the front door as she listened. Her hand clutched the doorknob like it was the edge of a cliff. Mama, she whispered, this ain't a house. It's a cage. There was a long pause on the other end. Then her mother said only, do what you think is best, baby. But I didn't raise a quitter. Brianna ended the call, slipped the phone into her pocket, and took a deep breath. But that breath Brianna took, it wasn't new. It was the same breath she had taken 100 times as a little girl hiding behind her mother's bedroom door, listening to the low rumble of her father's rage. She had grown up in a house where silence was strategy. Her mother, Lorraine, never raised her voice, never fought back. When Brianna once asked her why she stayed through the yelling, the slamming, the way Daddy would leave for 3 days and come back smelling like whiskey and regret, Lorraine had only said one thing. Because I gave my word before God. And God don't like a loud woman. Brianna remembered that like scripture. That to survive, you must shrink. That to be loved, you must endure. Even if it cracked you from the inside out. She learned to walk softly, to apologize quickly, and to disappear emotionally when things got hard. And when she was 12 and her father slammed a glass against the kitchen wall, missing her mother's face by inches, she saw her mom bend down, sweep up the glass, and hum a hymn as if nothing had happened. That night, Brianna wrote in her diary, when I grow up, I will not be her. But life has a cruel way of folding you into the very shapes you swore to escape. So when Derek came along, with his clean smile, pressed shirts, and promises dipped in scripture, Brianna mistook his possessiveness for protection, his rules for structure, his rage for passion. She didn't see the cycle. She saw her mother's hymn. And she hummed it too, until now. So Brianna left. No luggage. Just a purse, a hoodie, and her birth certificate tucked inside the inner pocket. She had lasted 24 hours. But that one day of silence, of space, of not answering to a man, felt like oxygen after suffocating for a year. It was also the day she posted that photo. And it was the day Derek stopped pacing and started loading his gun. The first signs were never loud. They whispered, crept in like fog, and by the time Brianna noticed, she was already walking with her head down, apologizing for things she didn't do. It started with little comments. Where you going in that top? Why you always gotta post selfies? Your friends ain't married. That's why they bit her. At first, she brushed it off. Maybe he was just protective. Maybe love did look like possessiveness sometimes. Maybe being a wife meant learning to understand a man's moods. But those moods got darker. He began showing up at the salon, unannounced. Just watching from his truck. Not saying anything. Just watching. Brianna would wave nervously, pretending not to notice how he glared at any customer who happened to be male. One time, she came out during her lunch break and found her car tires slashed. Derek claimed it must have been some jealous ex, but when she asked to see the apartment complex's security footage, he told her not to stir trouble. You don't need to be driving alone that much anyway, he said. I'll take you where you need to go. Soon, her independence vanished in pieces. He drove her. He picked her clothes. He deleted contacts from her phone, sometimes while she was asleep. She woke up one morning and found her bank app locked. He'd moved their joint account to another bank for security. Security for who? She asked. He smiled. Us. But it was never about us. It was about him. His grip. His world. His rules. The week before the wedding, he told her, if we gon' be one, You need to stop acting single. No male friends. No old photos. No secrets. I'm your protector. Let me do that. The line between protection and possession blurred fast. One Sunday, while sitting on the back porch with her sister Cynthia, Brianna cracked open a soda and finally confessed. I don't think I'm safe, she said quietly. Cynthia sat up straight. Bree, he hits you. Brianna hesitated. He hasn't. But he shakes sometimes. Like he's about to. Like he's holding back, and I'm waiting for the moment he doesn't. Cynthia clenched her jaw. You don't have to wait for that moment. I already booked the venue, the flowers, the dress. You can cancel a wedding. You can't cancel a funeral. But even as the warning rang true, Brianna couldn't undo the months of guilt tripping and emotional pressure. She didn't want to be the difficult one. Again, the truth was, Derek had studied her. Not just her habits, but her heartbreaks. He knew about her first husband who walked out. He knew how her father died too early for her to say goodbye. He knew how her mama always said, second chances are gifts from God. So when he looked her in the eyes and said, I'm not him. I'm better, she believed him, even when she shouldn't have. Still, after the wedding night, something in her broke. Not loudly, not with a scream, but quietly, the kind of break that's more dangerous because it's silent. When she moved into Jennifer's house after leaving Derek, she didn't cry. She didn't rant. She sat on the edge of the bed and stared into space for an hour. Jennifer brought her tea. You want to talk? Brianna looked up slowly. He kept my birth certificate. What? Out of everything in the house. That's what he took when I left. Jennifer froze. That's not control anymore. That's preparation. For something. Brianna's voice cracked, but she didn't break. He said, if I ever try to leave, he'd make sure I didn't go far. Jennifer turned off the lamp beside the bed, her hands trembling. You need to go to the police. He hasn't hit me. Do you need to be hit to be afraid? But Brianna didn't respond. Her silence was answer enough. That night, she couldn't sleep. At 3:12 a.m., she opened her phone and scrolled through old texts. There it was, a message from Derek from months before. If I can't have you, nobody will. At the time, she thought he was just being dramatic. Now it sounded like a promise. The next morning, she did something she hadn't done in months. She took a picture of herself smiling. Not the fake kind for church friends, not the posed kind for Christmas cards, but a real one. With tired eyes, but truth in her face. She looked at the screen, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. Then she typed, I'm single again, nail polish hashtag freedom feels good. It was bold, risky, maybe foolish. But for the first time in a long time, she felt like she had done something just for her. She closed the app, stared at her own face on the screen for a long while. Lips pressed tight, eyes still swollen with exhaustion, but somehow more alive than they'd looked in months. It was a strange moment of stillness, like standing at the edge of a cliff, unsure if you're about to fall or fly. And then, without knowing why, she stood up, went to her purse, and pulled out her journal. A slim, navy blue notebook she hadn't opened in over a year. She flipped past old pages filled with affirmations and quotes from church sermons that no longer comforted her. Near the back, she found a blank one. She held her pen for several seconds before it touched the page. And then she wrote, not a letter, not a goodbye, but a declaration. If anything happens to me, tell them I tried. I tried to love with patience. I tried to forgive beyond reason. I tried to make a home out of a house where I was not welcome. I tried to make peace with someone who only thrived in control. She paused, wiped a tear she didn't realize had fallen, then continued. I stayed too long because I was taught to endure, taught to shrink, taught that being a wife means folding your spine until it disappears beneath your husband's shadow. But this time, I chose to stand. Her handwriting began to shake, but she didn't stop. If you're reading this and I'm no longer here, please don't let anyone say I was quiet, or confused, or unsure. I was clear. I was ready to leave. She signed it only with her initials. Folded the page. slipped it behind the photo of her and Jennifer taken 3 summers ago on a beach trip, tucked it back into the journal. Then, almost as an afterthought, she added a single line at the very bottom of the page in slightly larger handwriting. If you're reading this, I hope you still have time. She stared at those words for several minutes. Not in fear, not in sorrow, but in warning. That night, long after Jennifer had gone to bed and the house had gone still, Brianna sat alone at the kitchen table. The only light came from the overhead lamp and the dim glow of her phone screen. She reached for a pen and a piece of notepad paper from the side drawer. She didn't write a will. She didn't write forgiveness. She wrote the truth. If anything happens to me, tell them I tried. I tried to love right. I tried to survive with dignity. I try to warn people that love isn't supposed to cost you your whole self. She folded the paper carefully and slid it into the back of her journal. Then, almost as an afterthought, she added one more line at the bottom. If he kills me, don't let them say I was quiet. She didn't know that post would go viral. She didn't know it would get over 30,000 views in less than a day. She didn't know Derek had a second phone, a fake account, and eyes on her even now. All she knew, in that brief window between fear and fury, was that she had tried to leave. And he was coming. By noon, the post had already been shared across Conway. Family, friends, old co-workers, even folks from church chimed in, some with shock, some with judgment, and others with quiet applause. Girl, you brave. Didn't you just get married yesterday? I knew he was no good. The phone didn't stop buzzing. The comments kept coming. Some laughed. Others warned. But only one person's silence felt like thunder, Derek Cole. He hadn't responded in over 4 hours. No texts. No calls. Just that last chilling message the night before. I'm on my way. That was it. Brianna tried to pretend she was calm, but Jennifer could see it. Her shoulders tense, her lips dry, her hands always resting close to her phone like it might detonate. You need to call the police, Jennifer urged again as they sat on the porch, the late afternoon sun pressing down like a warning. Even just to report the threats. Get it on record. Brianna shook her head. He's smart. He hasn't done anything yet. Jennifer didn't yell. She didn't argue. She just looked at her friend like she'd already seen the end of this road. He's done everything except pull the trigger, Bree. Inside the house, Brianna picked up her phone again. She opened Derek's messages. She hovered over the call button, not to answer, but to see if he'd blocked her now. Nothing. She clicked on his Facebook page. Still up. Still quiet. His last post had been the wedding photo. Him in a tux. Her in white. Caption. My rib. My forever. She closed the app, feeling sick. Then the buzz came again, a new message. Not from Derek. From an anonymous account. No profile picture. No friends. Just 5 words. She won't be single long. Brianna's breath caught in her throat. Jennifer walked in carrying 2 mugs of tea. What's wrong? Brianna turned the phone toward her. Jennifer read it, then went cold. That's him. I swear to God, that's him. He wouldn't use his name, Brianna whispered. Not now. Jennifer grabbed her phone. I'm reporting it. And I'm calling the police. Brianna stopped her. No. Wait. Wait for what? For him to come knock on the door again. He's not going to do anything, Jen. Jennifer stared her down. You keep saying that like it's a prayer, but it's sounding more like a eulogy. Silence fell. The tea went untouched. Outside, the cicadas screamed into the heat. That night, before the idea of going live even crossed her mind, something had already shifted. It was around 2:30 a.m. when Brianna sat up in bed, her heart pounding without cause. The house was still. Jennifer was asleep down the hall. But Brianna's body had learned to recognize danger before it had a name. She heard it. A creak. Not inside. Outside. Near the back window by the kitchen. She froze, ears straining. Then, another sound. Like someone brushing against the trash bin just below the window ledge. Slow. Measured. Deliberate. Brianna slipped out of bed and tiptoed into the hallway, barefoot, breath tight. She didn't turn on the lights. Instead, She crept toward the kitchen and peeked around the corner. The window was dark, but the blinds were slightly ajar, opened just enough for someone to see inside. She stayed still for what felt like hours. Then, something moved. A figure, a shadow, shifted just beyond the back fence. Tall, heavy-set, watching. She reached for her phone and snapped a photo through the blinds, hand trembling. When she enlarged the image in the gallery, her blood turned cold. It was blurry, but unmistakable. A man in a dark hoodie, standing, facing the house. She woke Jennifer, whispered everything. They called the police. Officers came within 15 minutes. They searched the yard, found nothing. No footprints. No man. No evidence. Just a cigarette, but still warm on the concrete, flicked carelessly under the window. He was here, Brianna insisted. One officer raised an eyebrow. You didn't see a face, though? I didn't need to, she said quietly. I've felt him in my skin for months. Another officer, younger, offered a shrug. Without a face or threat, there's not much we can file. When they left, Jennifer locked every window, every door, set up a kitchen chair beneath the doorknob like a movie trap. Brianna didn't sleep. She sat at the table until morning, her hands clenched around a coffee mug gone cold. Her phone stayed in her lap. When the sun finally broke through the blinds, she whispered to no one. He's not going to stop. That's when the idea came. Not to run, not to hide, but to go live, to make sure the world saw her, heard her, because if she was going to die, she refused to vanish quietly. An hour passed, then two. Brianna eventually got up, dusted herself off, and said, I need to go live. Jennifer blinked. Excuse me. I need to speak. Publicly. Clearly. My voice, not just a caption. Jennifer hesitated. That's poking the bear again. I know. But if he's going to do something, I want people to see me. Hear me. Know this wasn't random. I want it documented. She pulled her hair into a bun, changed into a soft gray shirt, and sat in front of the phone propped up on a makeshift stand. The sun was fading outside. The house was quiet except for the ceiling fan ticking like a countdown clock. Brianna went live. Hey, y'all. I know a lot of you saw my post yesterday, and I know it raised questions. So let me say this. Yes, I got married yesterday. And yes, today, I am single again. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I won't name names. I won't throw dirt. But I will say this. I chose myself. For the first time in a long time, I chose to breathe instead of brace. The comments poured in, supportive, confused, angry. Brianna ignored them. I posted that photo because I've spent too many nights crying into a pillow, asking God if love was supposed to feel like prison. And yesterday, I realized it's not. So I left. She paused, letting her words sink in. I'm not afraid to be alone. I'm afraid to disappear without anyone knowing who I really was. Just then, Jennifer's eyes caught something outside the window. A flicker of movement. A shadow shifting behind a tree. Bree, she whispered. Brianna looked up, still live. I know some people might say I should have stayed. That marriage is hard. That I should have waited longer, prayed harder, kept trying. She took a deep breath. But I refused to be a woman remembered for staying too long. The live stream continued for another minute, but Brianna's eyes drifted toward the front window now. Jennifer had already slipped into the hallway, her hand inching toward her purse, where she kept pepper spray and a folding blade her brother once gave her just in case. Then, 3 knocks. Sharp, calculated, familiar. Brianna went still. The phone was still rolling. The live stream still active. Hundreds were watching. She stood slowly, walked toward the door, but didn't open it. The comments exploded. Who's there? Don't open it. Call 911. Then came a text. From Derek. Just 2 words. Look outside. Brianna's heart thundered. Jennifer was already dialing. The police said they were 10 minutes out. But 10 minutes would be too long. Because outside that door, standing in silence, was a man holding more than a grudge. He was holding a gun. The knock still rang in her ears. Brianna stood frozen in the doorway, the phone still recording, the live stream still climbing. Over 600 people were now watching, most unaware they were witnessing the last moments of a woman's life, until the comments started flooding with panic. Is that him outside? Somebody please call the cops. Girl, don't open that damn door. Jennifer peeked around the hallway corner, clutching the cordless phone to her ear, whispering into it with shaking breath. Yes, 1742 North Madison. He's outside right now. Gun possibly involved. Brianna's eyes didn't leave the doorknob. It was like she could feel his breath through the wood, his presence pressing into the seams of the house. He didn't knock again. He didn't need to. Her phone buzzed once more. A text. Derek, if you don't open this door in 10 seconds, I'll come through it. Her hands began to tremble. I'm still live, she murmured. He knows I'm filming. Jennifer moved quickly to her side. All the more reason to stay back. That phone is your protection now. I don't think he cares anymore. Then, a pause. The kind of silence that wraps around your ribs like a vice. From outside came the sudden scrape of footsteps on gravel. Then nothing. Jennifer grabbed Brianna's wrist. He's moving. He's going round the back. We need to leave, Brianna whispered. They turned fast, heading for the back door. But before they reached the kitchen, the glass window near the sink shattered. A brick flew through, scattering shards across the counter. Jennifer screamed. And then, a shot. Not inside the house. Not yet. But close. Deafening. One bullet rang out like thunder, followed by glass exploding from the window beside the front door. Brianna's phone slipped from her hands, hit the hardwood, but the live stream continued. The screen, now tilted sideways, showed her feet stepping backward. What was that? OMG shots? Call 911 right now. Then came the sound of wood cracking. The front door buckled, hinges straining. Jennifer pulled Brianna toward the hallway, but it was too late. The door swung open, and there he stood, Derek Cole, in a black hoodie, face shadowed by the brim of a cap. Armed, calm, cold. He stepped inside like he still owned the place. Turn it off, he said, nodding at the phone. Brianna stood in front of it. No, she said, voice shaking. You already made your choice. Let the world see. Derek's lips curled. This ain't the world's business, Brianna. It's ours. You made it public. Jennifer reached into her purse with trembling fingers, wrapping them around the pepper spray. But Derek saw it. Don't, he warned, turning the barrel of the gun her direction. She froze. He stepped closer to Brianna. You made me into a joke. My mother called me this morning crying. My own brother texted me like I was a coward. You are, Brianna whispered. You're a coward who hits women and hides behind scripture. That flicker in his eyes, rage and shame, boiled over. He raised the gun. I gave you everything, he growled. You gave me bruises and silence. Jennifer screamed, put it down. But the shot rang out once. Brianna staggered backward. A red bloom spread across her chest like ink and water. The camera captured it all. She looked straight at Derek as she fell to her knees, lips trembling. I tried to leave, she choked out, then collapsed. Jennifer screamed again, rushing to her friend, shielding her with her body, sobbing. No, 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 no. Please, Bree, stay with me. But Brianna wasn't moving. Derek turned the gun to Jennifer. You're next, he said. But before he could pull the trigger, sirens wailed from outside. Blue lights flashed through the broken window. Derek looked toward the front door, then back at Jennifer, then at the phone still filming. Still live. Tens of thousands were watching now. His expression twisted. Then, slowly, he dropped the gun to the floor. The camera caught it all. The police burst through the door seconds later, shouting commands. Derek raised his hands. They tackled him, cuffed him, dragged him from the scene. And in the background, the live stream showed the final image. Jennifer cradling Brianna's limp body, rocking slightly, whispering over and over again. You were right. You were right to leave. The comments section turned into a memorial. She tried to escape. We watched her die. Her blood is on this country's silence. By the time Facebook took down the video, it had been seen by over 4.2 million people. But by then, it was already etched into the conscience of a nation. A woman tried to leave, and she was killed for it, live. The next morning, America woke up to a tragedy already etched into its bloodstream. Major networks ran the story under breaking headlines. Wife shot dead on livestream just 24 hours after wedding. Domestic violence captured in real time. She posted, "I'm single again." Then her husband killed her. Clips of Brianna's livestream circulated faster than authorities could contain them. TikTok was flooded with reaction videos. Teens weeping, women screaming, retired veterans shaking their heads. Facebook tried to remove it, but mirrors popped up within hours, spreading across Reddit, X, and WhatsApp groups like wildfire. The video itself was brutal, but what broke people more, what reached past the bone, was the moment right before she fell. That defiant whisper, "I tried to leave." It wasn't just a statement. It was a final confession. A verdict on a country where women like her never make it out alive. At 11 a.m., a candlelight vigil formed outside Brianna's old nail salon. People she hadn't seen in years brought flowers. Old clients, neighbors, strangers. Some held signs. "Love doesn't kill. She deserved tomorrow. Don't tell us to be quiet." She wasn't just a hashtag. Jennifer, still in shock, hadn't slept. Her arms were scratched from broken glass. Her voice hoarse from screaming. She stood beside the crowd and watched people cry over a woman they never met, holding up phones to replay a horror she would never forget. "I didn't even get to tell her she was brave," someone murmured beside her. "She knew," Jennifer whispered. On Twitter, public opinion fractured like cracked glass. Some praised Brianna for speaking out, calling her a martyr. Others, disturbingly, blamed her. "You don't humiliate a man like that and expect nothing." She provoked him with that Facebook post. Maybe if she had handled it privately. The backlash sparked a national argument about male ego, digital humiliation, and what society considers provocation. On CNN, a heated debate aired between a domestic violence survivor and a retired pastor. Host: "Was a Facebook post truly grounds for murder?" Survivor: "No woman should have to die to prove she was afraid." Pastor: "Marriage is sacred. She should have talked to him, not mocked him publicly." Survivor: "She tried to talk. He used fists. Then he used a gun." The clip went viral. Meanwhile, churches across Arkansas were put under pressure. Some had publicly celebrated Derek and Brianna's wedding, praising it as redemption through union. Now, their silence was deafening. Brianna's own church removed their original wedding post quietly overnight, without a single word of remorse. 3 days later, during a press conference, Detective Marlena Reed stood before microphones and confirmed. This was not a crime of passion. This was premeditated domestic terrorism, streamed in real time. She continued, voice steady but weary. "We found surveillance footage of Derek casing the neighborhood hours before the shooting. He came with extra ammunition. He parked strategically out of sight. This was not a man snapping. This was a man who planned to silence her, forever." Reporters asked the question everyone was thinking. Why didn't she call police sooner? Jennifer stepped forward that time, her voice quivering but clear. Because she thought no one would believe her. Because he hadn't hit her. Because he knew how to hurt her without leaving bruises. The room went silent. By the end of the week, #SheTriedToLeave was trending nationwide. Survivors came out in droves, posting stories of near-death escapes, of police who dismissed them, of mothers who told them to be patient, of judges who gave abusers probation. Some states began fast-tracking new legislation on digital threats and coercive control, crimes that leave no physical wounds but scar the soul. Meanwhile, Brianna's name was etched on posters at women's shelters from New York to Los Angeles. Her photo, smiling in that final live stream, became a symbol of both resistance and warning. Derek Cole, meanwhile, sat in a county jail on no bond, his military service now irrelevant, his supporters silent. His mugshot revealed nothing, no regret, no rage. Just blank eyes. During the arraignment, the judge asked if he understood the charges. "Yes, Your Honor," he replied, monotone. In the county jail, Derek didn't speak much. He didn't ask for a lawyer. He didn't cry. He didn't scream innocence like others might have. He simply waited. The guards found it unsettling. How calm he was. How methodically he arranged his few possessions on the metal bunk. Socks folded like origami. The Bible open, but unread. He never joined the other inmates during recreation hours. He stood in the far corner of the yard, alone, hands behind his back like a soldier awaiting orders. One night, a guard named Travis found him staring at the cinder block wall in his cell, muttering. "You all right in there?" the guard asked, half curious, half cautious. Derek didn't look up. "She played me," he whispered. Travis tilted his head. "What was that?" Still no eye contact. Just that same flat voice. "She humiliated me. Made me look weak." The guard shifted uncomfortably. "That woman's dead, man." Derek finally turned. "She didn't die," he said, eyes unblinking. "She made herself a martyr. I gave her that. It wasn't remorse. It wasn't delusion. It was control. Even in a cage, he still believed he was pulling the strings." Later that night, under dim light, Derek took a pen and scratched something into the corner of his cell wall. The phrase was chilling in its simplicity. Obedience or silence. One or the other. When his lawyer visited the next day to prepare for trial, Derek had only one question. "Do I have to look sorry?" The lawyer blinked. "You should at least look human." Derek didn't smile. He just nodded and said, "Then teach me how. And do you wish to make a statement?" He glanced toward the courtroom gallery, empty, save for reporters. "No." She got what she wanted. The judge paused, then added a note to the record. "Let it be known that the defendant expressed no remorse." A week later, Brianna's funeral was held at a packed Baptist church, not the one where she got married. This one didn't cover up bruises with blessings. They showed the live stream on a projector, stopping right before the gunfire. The preacher said, with trembling hands, "We are not here to grieve just a woman. We are here to mourn a system that let her down. A culture that tells women to lower their voices, fold their hands, and stay." He looked out at the sea of tear-streaked faces, then added, "She posted, 'I'm single again,' as a cry of freedom." And someone answered with a bullet. As the congregation sang, "His eye is on the sparrow," Jennifer sat in the front row gripping a folded piece of paper. It was a printed screenshot from the live stream, just before Brianna's final words. On the back, she had written, "Let her voice be louder than her silence ever was." And with that, she stood, walked to the front, and placed the paper inside Brianna's casket, so the world wouldn't forget. The air inside the church that morning felt heavy, like God himself was grieving. Every pew was filled. Neighbors, co-workers, old classmates, even strangers who had only known Brianna through a screen. Some women wore purple ribbons for domestic violence awareness. Others carried tissues and tight jaws, their silence more powerful than any sermon. Photos of Brianna lined the hallway, one from her high school prom, another of her holding up the keys to her first salon. In all of them, she was smiling. But only one picture captured her with that particular smile, the one from the live stream. Tired, brave, ready. Jennifer sat on the front row, clutching the program. Her fingers trembled slightly as the choir's final note faded into stillness. The pastor called for final remarks. She hadn't planned to speak, but something in her rose. Not strength, not courage, just duty. She stood slowly, walked to the pulpit, and unfolded the page she had carried in her purse since that night. A page Brianna once scribbled lyrics on for fun, now bearing Jennifer's handwritten words. Her voice cracked, but she read anyway. "I was there the night she made the post. I was there the night he came. I saw her choose her voice, even when it scared her. I saw her stand, even knowing she might fall. She didn't want to be a martyr. She just wanted to matter." She paused, swallowing a sob. We failed her by telling her to stay quiet. We failed her by calling it love when it was control. We failed her when we let silence become safety. And now, all we can do is not forget. The church was silent. No amens. No clapping. Just a few sniffles from women who'd lived too many of the same chapters. Jennifer stepped down, returned to her seat, and reached for Brianna's casket one last time. She whispered something no one could hear. Later, when the casket was closed and the organ played its soft departure hymn, the funeral director handed Jennifer a sealed envelope. "We found this in her journal," he said quietly. Inside was the folded letter Brianna had written. Jennifer didn't read it until she was alone that evening. Sitting on her porch, tea in hand, cicadas buzzing in the trees like static memory. She opened the paper, read it once, then cried like she hadn't cried since that night. Not because of grief, but because Brianna's words weren't goodbye. They were a warning and a promise. 6 months later, the trial of Derek Cole opened in a packed Arkansas courtroom. Outside the courthouse, protesters stood shoulder to shoulder. Some held up signs with Brianna's face. Others wore shirts printed with her final words. I tried to leave. The air was thick with the kind of tension that comes when a whole town finally looks itself in the mirror. Inside, Derek sat at the defense table in a charcoal gray suit, hair neatly combed, face unreadable. His lawyers flanked him like armor, stone-faced and calculating. No family, no supporters, just silence. Across the aisle, Jennifer sat beside Brianna's older sister, Cynthia, both clutching tissues already damp before opening statements even began. The prosecutor, ADA Lauren Temple, wasted no time. She stepped forward slowly, holding up a still image from the live stream. It showed Brianna mid-sentence, hand to her heart, eyes locked on the camera, frozen in her final moment of life. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," Temple began, voice clear and cutting. "This is not a case about passion. This is not about a man who snapped. This is about a man who planned, hunted, and executed his wife for daring to leave." Derek's attorney, Victor Langston, struck back with calm precision. "We will prove that Mr. Cole was a decorated veteran suffering from undiagnosed PTSD, that he acted under extreme emotional distress, that this was a tragedy, not a murder." Whispers spread like wildfire through the courtroom. Jennifer leaned into Cynthia. "So now trauma gets to excuse evil?" Cynthia shook her head. "They're going to try to make him the victim." The first witness was Detective Marlena Reed. She described the crime scene in detail: the broken glass, the brick through the window, the spent shell casings, the angle of entry. "It was clear he didn't come to talk," she said. "He came to finish something." Next came Jennifer Mathis. Every juror sat straighter as she walked to the stand. She gripped the railing, knuckles white. She was afraid, Jennifer said. Every day, and she still tried to survive him with grace. Temple guided her gently. Was she planning to leave permanently? Jennifer nodded. Yes. She'd already gathered her birth certificate. She was going to move states, start fresh. She said, "This time I'm not going back." Then came the hardest part. Temple played the final 2 minutes of the live stream. The courtroom fell completely silent. The sound of Brianna's voice, soft but steady, echoed through the chamber. Then the gunshot. A gasp rippled through the gallery. One juror, a middle-aged woman, began crying silently. Derek didn't flinch. Langston objected, claiming the video was prejudicial. The judge overruled him. The victim's voice is not prejudice. It's testimony. Midway through the trial, Langston called a surprise witness, Dr. Nathan Willis, a retired Army psychiatrist. "Mr. Cole has exhibited symptoms consistent with combat-related PTSD," he testified. "Heightened sensitivity to rejection, paranoia, episodes of dissociation." ADA Temple rose from her seat slowly. "Doctor, are you aware Mr. Cole had 0 active duty deployments? He served stateside only and was honorably discharged before ever seeing combat." A pause. "I was not aware of that detail." Temple leaned in. "So the trauma that made him kill, Where did it come from, exactly? No answer. The courtroom murmured. Jennifer smiled without joy. They really thought that would work? Finally, Derek himself took the stand. His lawyer had warned against it. But Derek insisted. He looked directly at the jury. I loved her, he began. I gave her everything. She humiliated me. Temple stood. So you shot her? I snapped. I didn't mean to. It was the live stream. The comments. People laughing. She moved closer. Did she threaten you? No. Did she have a weapon? No. Did she even raise her voice? He paused. No. But she disrespected me. Temple stepped back. Let that hang in the air. Thank you for your honesty, she said coldly. No further questions. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. When they returned, the forewoman stood tall, her voice trembling. We, the jury, find the defendant, Derek James Cole, guilty of first-degree murder. Cynthia broke down sobbing. Jennifer closed her eyes, breathing deep, like something heavy had finally lifted. Derek stared ahead, unmoving, still stone. When the judge read the sentence, life in prison without the possibility of parole, Derek finally spoke. Just one word. Good. Whether it was defiance or defeat, no one knew. But it didn't matter anymore. Because Brianna's voice had been heard. 3 months after the verdict, a mural appeared in downtown Little Rock. It wasn't planned. No press release. No fundraiser. Just an anonymous artist with a ladder, a bucket of paint, and a mission. The mural showed Brianna, not in her wedding dress, not in tears, but standing tall, one hand raised, the other holding a phone mid-live stream. Her eyes didn't look afraid. They looked seen. Across the top, in bold white lettering, were her final words. I tried to leave. Underneath. And now, the world listens. Jennifer visited the wall every Sunday. She'd sit across from it with a thermos of coffee, watching strangers stop and stare. Some took photos. Some wept. Others just stood in silence. She became more than a victim, Jennifer once told a local reporter. She became a mirror, and the world didn't like what it saw. Cynthia started a foundation in Brianna's name. It funded relocation services for women fleeing domestic violence. In less than a year, they'd helped 27 women leave and stay gone. At the annual Survivors Summit, Brianna's story was shared on stage. No edits. No censorship. Just truth. As the auditorium rose in a standing ovation, Jennifer whispered to herself, "You didn't die in vain." Because Brianna's voice, once ignored, once silenced, had become a roar. And in that roar lived every woman who had ever whispered goodbye, only to be punished for leaving. But not anymore. Miles away, in a quiet shelter outside Milwaukee, a young woman named Tasha sat in the corner of a dimly lit room, scrolling silently on her phone. Her lip was split, her eye swollen. Her 3-year-old daughter slept beside her on a cot. She wasn't searching for news. She was just trying to feel less alone. Then she saw it. The mural. Brianna's mural. The same eyes. The same exhaustion. The same truth she had never dared to say aloud. Tasha stared at the words across the top. I tried to leave. And then at the words below. And now, the world listens. She stared for a long time. And that night, without drama, without packing, without saying goodbye, Tasha rose quietly, lifted her sleeping daughter into her arms, and walked out the door. She didn't know where she was going. She only knew she wasn't going back. Because sometimes, a stranger's courage is the map you didn't know you needed. 6 months later, inside the U.S. Capitol, in a quiet but historic Senate chamber, her name was read aloud. Brianna Nicole Cole, the senator began, voice steady, age 42. Shot dead by her husband 24 hours after their wedding. On live stream. In front of 34,000 people. A hush fell over the room. She didn't die because she didn't leave. She died because she did, and the law gave him time. That day, lawmakers debated the first federal bill addressing digital coercion and live stream-based threats. And in the evidence folder submitted to the congressional record, alongside reports and studies, sat a screenshot. A still image from Brianna's live stream. She stood mid-sentence. Face calm. Eyes tired, but alive. The subtitle below the photo simply read, "If anything happens to me, tell the world I tried to leave."